Late fees, the thing that everyone says they hated the most about video stores. But you sure would pay them now, wouldn't you? But no, they were, they could be annoying, but at the same time, 5 days is a long time to watch a movie. Anyway, so many stories about late fees and people who, tried to talk their way out of it or had a lot, or, we were able to convince, like, hey, we have amnesty day on the 1st. Come in, we'll cut your late fees in half. And, you're good to go. You can rent forever again. And it always felt really good when people would come back on the 1st or would say, like, hey, why am I being an asshole about this and fighting over $20? I'm an adult, I have a job, here you go, now I can rent again, no more fighting. It wasn't that hard, people. But my favorite late fee story is there would be people who had stolen from the store and was like, hey, don't run this person ever again. Or there were people who had racked up, tons of late fees and stuff. And, more often than not, money heals all wounds. And it would always, there was at least one or two people that was like, oh, what? That was like 10 years ago. I'm like, yeah, bro, you stole from us. Not a good foundation for a future business relationship. You pay us that money or not. People get really indignant. Like, it's like renting a movie, renting a car. It's the same thing. We need to have something on file, and it's property that you're not replacing. There was that article a few years back where, a woman had a warrant out for arrest because she had never returned Freddy Got Fingered. And yes, it's a funny movie. Yeah, it's a funny choice of a movie, which I really like. And yeah, like, the Blockbuster or whatever, it closed down. But I was all for it. I was like, yeah, don't steal movies. And, I feel bad for the people. There's a lot of college kids who I'm sure their credit got fucked up because they were sent to collections for never returning stuff. But it's a responsibility. It's easy, and obviously, shit happens, and we were very understanding. Obviously, shit happens, and we were very understanding. When shit would happen. And I remember, especially at the campus store, there'd be like once or twice there were college kids who were either very well-to-do or, it was their parents' money, and they would come in, and I'd be like, oh, you have a $150 late fee. And they'd be like, oh, yeah, sure, put it on my card and stuff. And, great. If you can just spend that, that's awesome. I'm not going to judge you. I appreciate the money. Please come again and rent. But my favorite late fee story was... My favorite late fee story was there was a woman who had come in and she had like $200, $220, like over $200 late fee, easy. And I was like, oh no, I'm so sorry you have this late fee. And it's really big. And she said, oh, definitely, I'll pay it. Not even a problem. And I was pleased. And I was like, oh, just time gets away from us. And she said the reason that she hadn't returned those movies on time was her son was in the military. I think he was in the Marines. Doesn't matter. And he was getting deployed to Japan. So she had flown with him to Los Angeles. And then I think they had stayed, like, they'd stayed there long or something. Or like they had both flown out of Los Angeles together, and then some point then he went to Japan. Regardless, she was like, I got to spend extra time with my son, before I don't see him for months and months. So this $200 is, it's not a lot to pay for getting that extra time, and I was really moved by that. And and she kept running, and that's the real great part of the story. But there was, as jaded as you can be about movies and stuff, these customers were our friends, and the regulars were great, and it would make me smile, make them smile to see them when they came in, for them to see me when they came in, or other people, because I'm sure there were customers that didn't like me, but it it was very much a relationship, and they would trust us to recommend something, and we would treat them right and stuff, and it was for some people, especially some older customers, it was the one thing that they could the friendly face that they could depend on seeing week after week, and vice versa. We really loved it. Speaking of people with movie opinions, I remember there was one time where we were watching Big Trouble in Little China in the store. I may or may not have been working with Neil Cook at the time, but we were watching Big Trouble in Little China, and this couple walks up, and she says to her girlfriend, like, "Oh, what's this?" And the one goes like, "Oh, it's this dumb 80s movie." And I look at what they're renting, and it's Joanna Man. And, if you want to watch Joanna Man, cool. There's definitely a time and a place. But maybe not the best, thing to be renting to throw a John Carpenter film under the bus. So that always made me chuckle. Celebrities, there was always fun when celebrities would come in. Obviously, Jimmy Kimmel, Matthew McConaughey, that was a unique thing. But, there were a few that we would see a lot. Richard Linklater would rent. I remember making him pay late fees on a musical and stuff, and he was like kind of frustrated about it, but I was like, oh, okay, it's like, you got some money, Rick, come on. Justin Long ran it for a while. We got to see him recently, this last September, actually. David Herman, Lee Eddy, Macon Blair, the Charles Edward Cheese Band, who famously made a music video at the Elizabeth store. Josh Johnson, Bob Byington, who was kind of a jerk, but I remember him being really excited, like on a Tuesday or Wednesday in early 2013, being really excited. It was the first day that that Hal Hartley's Trust had been put on DVD, and he called up and like, "Hey, is Trust in stock? I'll come down." And he almost did like, "Do you know who I am?" kind of thing. But regardless, a red letter day, a Hal Hartley movie on DVD finally. It's great. Kathy McCarty, a lot of UT professors and instructors and teachers really from all over Austin and stuff, some of whom had written books, some of whom were my teachers and stuff, and it was always great to talk to them. Chale from AFS. Chale from AFS, obviously Zach and Lars and a lot of Alamo programmers and people, and Joe and Laird and eventually, Zane and, all kinds of, AFS and Alamo, and, just local celebrities and singers and stuff. Famously, Terrence Malick had an account and would rent at Vulcan. I never checked him out, but, it was very, we were told, yes, this is Terrence Malick. Don't be a dick. Don't bug him. Treat him like anyone else. And then speaking of Terry, because we're friends, only Wilson can call him Terry. And this is really Tony's story, but when Michael Fassbender was in town shooting, he had come in, like his personal assistant or something had rented a movie or had set up an account so Michael could come in and rent movies. And there was one time I was in the back grabbing stuff, and apparently this guy and Fassbender had come up, and Tony was so starstruck that like he gave him the wrong change. And the guy was like, I think I gave you a 20. He's like, oh, right, yeah. And he left, and Tony goes like, did you see who that was? I was like, oh, no, what, who? And I was like, it was Fassbender. I was like, oh, shit. And what was extra funny about that was, like in the previous week, we had been talking all about Prometheus, and, I'm a little kinder to it now, but at the time I was like, yeah, it kind of sucked. But Michael Fassbender was fucking awesome in it. And I kind of wish he had said that, like, hey, what do you think about Prometheus? Like, well, kind of so-so, but, it would have been like a nice little unprompted compliment. And apparently he ran some good stuff too, like Blue Collar and some other good things. So that was neat. But yeah. But yeah, Vulcan Video. A happening place to swing by when you could, but now you can't.